Who is a celebrity you lost all respect for? Steven Seagal. I liked some of his movies when he was popular. The stories that have emerged in the past several years let us all know he's an absolute piece of crap. Billy Crystal. He kicked me out of my seats at a Lewis Black stand-up show. Literally stood over me and was like, "These are my seats." I sort of laughed at him. Had my tickets in hand. Double checked they were correct and was like, "Sorry. I'm in the correct seat." He stood there and insisted, "No. These are mine, you gotta go." Lewis had started. And I didn't want to cause a scene, so we got up and walked over to the aisle and the usher goes, "Ugh, he's been so difficult tonight." They gave us box seats. Still good, but we had like third row seats in the center. Can't watch City Slickers or Monsters Incorporated without hating on him. Lol. Meg Ryan. Also on the set of In the Cut. I worked on it for 2 weeks and we were all told not to make eye contact with her. About a week in, a woman was walking by and started to tell Meg how much she loved her. Meg starts snapping her fingers off toward the distance. Her assistant comes running and literally opens a huge golf umbrella in the lady's face so Meg could walk the other way. Seemed like they had practiced this move. Tyra Banks. In my preteen years, I would watch her talk show every weekday. She was my idol. As a teen, I was more interested in America's Next Top Model. Recently, it was pointed out to me just how toxic a lot of Tyra's content was that I watched 10-17 years ago. I don't want to list it off, but there are videos about her problematic challenges in ANTM and insensitive things on her talk show. She also founded an MLM, which is never good. And it failed. Oprah. My sister told me about this young kid that was kidnapped and abused daily, but one day years later escaped and made it home to their family. Oprah wanted to do an interview and the family declined. So Oprah shows up at their house with TV crew and equipment. Edit. My most upvoted comment ever is about Oprah. FCK me. Barbara Walters. She used to get some of the biggest interviews in the world and was well respected. Then The View happened. And then total respect was lost when she pushed back on Corey Feldman for outing how rampant sexual assault was in Hollywood. Now in hindsight we find out Barbara Walters was in Jeffrey Epstein's circle of friends and was certainly aware, if not worse. Dr. Phil. He was a client where I worked several years back. He and his entire entourage are the very definition of entitled cockthistles. Wendy Williams. Made fun of victims of murder, sexual assault, encouraged a woman to trick her husband into having another child, etc. Bill Cosby. He was America's dad. Any Scientologist. I pity some of them, but OMG what an awful org. Butch Hartman. Love his work. But the guy is totally f***ing nuts. As a kid I liked the Dr. Oz show. But I lost all respect after finding out he was actually just a ego-blown nuthead. Who claims to be America's doctor. But he didn't even vaccinate his own kids. Edit. Every time I find out they're Scientologists. Can't do it. Gwen Paltrow. Goop is so anti-science, I just hate everything. Leslie Jones. My ex's mom worked for SNL and she was the only cast member who not only refused to speak to us when we were backstage, but also made sure to make us feel like a nuisance any chance she got. Doesn't sound so bad if we were grown adults visiting mommy at SNL. But this was when we were like 14-15 years old. I remember it made the whole night so strange because we felt like a disruption even though it was only the dress rehearsal. So yeah, I don't like her. Roman Polanski won a couple Academy Awards even though he's been a fugitive in the US for over 40 years for drugging and raping a 13-year-old and has been accused of similar predatory behavior by women he's worked with. Yeah, that's a massive reason why I don't like Meryl Streep. She was extremely hard on Spacey and Weinstein, both rightfully so, and then goes and defends Polanski and says he's done his time. What f***ing time? Ian Watkins. The singer of Lost Prophets. Why? He likes to diddle kids. Diddling kids is putting it very lightly. Jenny McCarthy. What a bitch of a mess. Her continued insistence that autism is caused by vaccines is reprehensible. The doctor who started that lie was thoroughly debunked, but she just keeps on keeping on. Kelly. I loved listening to his music when I was younger. But hearing all of these stories about how he is basically a predator to underage girls is very unsettling. The fact he even married a girl who wasn't even of legal age was gross. At least he went to P. Ricin for it. Underage women. Girls. The phrase underage women is often used in media to distance perpetrators from the title pedophile. Whether consciously or unconsciously. Regular people started to do it too. Don't help predators smooth over their crimes. Chris Brown after he beat up Rihanna. I could never listen to his music after that. Allen Ginsberg. I loved his poetry up until I found out he was a member of NAMBLA. I used to listen to Simple Plan a lot as a teen and sometimes still do. I recently found out that their bassist David DeRoches was accused by a few women of sexual misconduct, including grooming a minor for sex. He confessed and apologized. Left the band in 2020. And sought mental help, while the band also apologized to their fans for his behavior, and they don't seem to condone his actions. It blows knowing that one of the members of my childhood favorite band turned out to be like this. But I'm glad that the rest of the band held him accountable and didn't make any excuses for him. Jared Leto after all the shit he pulled on the Suicide Squad set. I like to think his conduct is mostly the reason he got edited out of 90% of the movie, although the director won't cop to that. First off, I'm old. But O.J. Simpson. He had it all. Chevy Chase. Never really a fan of him pre-Community, but I at least respected him for putting in the work. But after hearing how much of a D-bag and how difficult to work with made me lose that respect. James Corden. Surprisingly, I haven't seen Jeffree Star or Shane Dawson. But definitely both of them. Both of them have done enough BS to fill a book. I do believe that people change and can better themselves. But in my opinion, neither of them have or ever will. They're two people I wouldn't miss if they decided to step away from their platforms. Tom Cruise. He knows what happened to Shelley Miscavige and he benefits from free labor of Scientologist members. People who are forced to work without pay. That and his take on depression not being real. He can open an umbrella up his ass for that. Chris Brown. Stop beating women. I don't care for Gob. I honestly don't like Ellen DeGeneres because she likes to make fun of younger people that don't know how to do certain things. A YouTuber I lost all respect for is Mini Lad. Turns out Mini Lad likes to play with Mini Lad's edit. Danny Masterson. Also Allison Mack from Smallville. That SX cult stuff. Evel Knievel. His exact words when my 10-year-old self asked him for an autograph were, "Get this kid out of here." Bill Cosby. Me and my father listened to his routines for a good part of my childhood. I had a MP3 player filled with his stuff. First accusation had me shocked. As they piled higher, I had to realize that even the most skilled and charismatic people can be horrible. Davey Vanity or whatever. I grew up as a scene kid who eventually got into punk and goth industrial. But I used to like BOTDF, Blood on the Dance Floor, but turns out the guy loved his under 15-year-old fans. Sick FCK. Joel Osteen. The head of Lakewood Church. With an average attendance of 20,000 to his football stadium-sized congregation. And an additional 7 million tuned in online. He's written several best-selling novels. And with over $40 million in church attendees donations each year. He has amassed an incredible wealth. Osteen is not a true man of God. More like a motivational speaker with a Christian mask on. Very little of his wealth is donated. And when a hurricane hit his town of Houston, Texas, he turned people away seeking shelter. He recently received a $4 million PPE loan from the US government because his massive multi-million dollar telepreaching business suffered donation losses due to COVID. While I can't say his message is any less meaningful, he is no doubt a shady, selfish man. Nancy Cartwright. Scientology? Really? I was gutted when I found out. Sharon Stone. Pierce Brosnan. Why? Because my dad worked with them, mentioning how poorly they treated him and others around. Side note, Keanu Reeves treated my dad amazingly well. I still remember MG dad coming home one day and saying, "Do you know MR Reeves? You know Keanu, this Matrix guy." I was like, yeah of course PA. Keanu Reeves. Those movies are amazing. My dad went on explaining how well Keanu treated him, and every time my dad worked with him it was nothing but praise for how nice of a person Keanu was to him. My dad was an immigrant worker and wish I could say thanks to Keanu for having treated my father with the respect he deserved. Dan Schneider. Elizabeth Moss. Was super disappointed to find out she was a Scientologist. Especially ironic considering the role she plays. Oprah. I was on the fence about her growing up until I saw her just berate this woman in front of an audience because she doesn't believe in God. Ever since then it's been FCK Oprah. Ben Stiller. Heard a few stories about him being a complete asshole. Heard he got one of the film set crew members fired for not getting him a coffee even though it wasn't his job or something like that. Heard he also doesn't like people looking at him and will give people shit about it. Can confirm. He totally freaked out in a theater because some other patrons were sitting in our seats. Nobody believes me. Dr. G. Oprah Winfrey. She ran a competition to be the host on an episode of her show. The guy that won is in a wheelchair. Oprah's actual comment was, "I don't want a cripple running my show." Turns out she's one of those nutcases that thinks disability equals punishment from God. You know. All those kids with cancer that are just so gosh darn evil. But she actively hates people in wheelchairs. I mean deep down loathing and wanting them all to die. Stephen Collins. Once the allegations of child sexual abuse proved true. That was it. Seventh Heaven was amazing. Though. And he seemed like he was a good deal like Eric Camden in real life. Shame. Any of them that are Scientologists. Just started watching Scientology in the aftermath. FCK those twats. Mariah Carey. Mariah is an OG diva. To her credit, she wears it on her sleeve, not like most other celebs that try to have a good public image while acting like a stuck-up shitty in private. Deal with Mariah. You know you're dealing with someone whose ego leaks out their ass. Shane Dawson. He was doing terrible shitty from the beginning, but it seemed like he genuinely fixed himself and then. Bella Thorne. In reference to the Army Hammer thing, a little up thread. Someone said to me, well, Bella Thorne came out in his defense, and my reply to that was, that's the opposite of a good thing. Huey Lewis in the news. I worked as a stagehand for years and they came to our venue. He had 3 black female backup singers, and one of them, who was so sweet and so talented, he pulled aside and screamed at her that she was a pitchy piece of trash and he could fire her and she'd end up back in the ghetto. He was super racist and sexist to anyone not white, but super charming to everyone else. He tried talking to me and I was like, nah, I'm good. Also Chris Angel. I have a friend who is lead stage technician, and he said he was super abusive to his crew and doesn't create his own illusions. Almost all of his stuff is bought from other people that invented, including my friend. Bart Baker. For those who are not familiar, Bart Baker was a YouTuber who makes parodies of music videos. But after the apocalypse, he moved to China and effectively became a propaganda minister for the communist regime, singing covers of patriotic hymns and Maoist marches on TikTok. As a Chinese immigrant living in America, I find the Communist Party of China to be highly repugnant, and it pains me to see how the world continues to suck up to this dictatorial regime. Sorry for going off on a tangent like this. I hope you all can hear me out. BoJack Horseman. Agreed. Ever since I heard what went down between him and Sarah Lynn. Plus all the shitty about drugs while filming Phil, but I haven't been able to look at Horsin around the same way. 0. Any of the alarmingly large number of celebrities guilty of sexual assault rape. Tyler Perry was a massive arsehole to my brother. Elon Musk. Smoked weed on YT and days later people under his employment were fired for smoking in their free time. Also did not care about his workers getting infected with COVID. Saying that they should work during lockdown. R. Kelly for sure. Conor McGregor. Hit an old man. Offered whiskey to a Muslim. Insulted a whole nation. Apparently Jackie Chan is an asshole. A pro-China government. Kid abandoning. Womanizing asshole. What a celebrity ever do to get my respect? I mean Keanu Reeves just got caught donating to charity. Brendan Urie. Better known as Panic. At the disco. I used to adore him. Until I came across videos of him using the N-word. Telling teen audience members he was gonna FCK them whether they liked it or not. And the whole fiasco with him sexually harassing his former bandmates. I couldn't after that. Any and every TikTok dancer. I understand that many of them have legitimate talent. But their lives are so micro-dissected and rehashed ad nauseam. People have had their careers made. I kid you not. Recreating someone else's dance using someone else's music. Not only that. But many TikTok influencers gain fame simply because they are attractive to teenagers and young adults. This answer may come across as jealous. But I'm just so tired of 18-year-olds flaunting Lamborghinis, mega mansions, and millions of followers from creating 5 minutes of content per day. Also, I'd like to add that I've seen at least 4 Snapchat news programs post stories about Charlie and Chase's kiss. Who is Chase and why do I care about his kiss? Phil Anselmo. James Wood. Bill Cosby. Kevin Spacey. James Corden. Chevy Chase. Will Ferrell. I would say Ellen DeGeneres, but I was never a fan of hers and I always thought it was weird how she would sexualize men and have them come out shirtless. Ewan McGregor for sure. Loved everything he's been in and really enjoyed the shows he did with Charlie Berman, but since he cheated on his wife I've lost respect for him. Watched Shallow Grave recently and actually cheered when the Minis door hit his shins. Completely unreasonable, I know. Don't do this. Don't take Ewan from me. Not that I really have a stake one way or the other. But I've also heard a version that he and his wife had already split. Privately. Before he got together with Winstead. Anisian. Yikes. Not a celebrity, but it was discovered on Monday that one of my favorite YouTubers is a pedophile. He's dropped from 130k to 120k subscribers this week alone. Yes, Ted with a 15-year-old and did everything you could think of except for trading nudes or doing anything physical. Edit. I forgot to add this. It probably makes the situation slightly less bad, but the YouTuber is only 19. It's still extremely predatory stuff to say to someone who isn't at the age of consent. He was telling her the ways he wanted to have sex with her in detail. Talked about envisioning marrying and having kids with her, etc. Close bracket. I didn't share his name because people have had their fair shares of attacking and even doxing him. But, yes. Some people have deduced who it is at this point. Amber Heard. What she is doing to Johnny is messed up. Elizabeth Moss. She's in a goddamn cult. Can we all agree Keanu Reeves seems to be the only celebrity worthy of our admiration? Dolly Parton. Betty White. What about Weird Al? Kevin Spacey. Honestly, I loved his work on House of Cards. Letitia Wright because of the anti-vax stuff. She seemed pretty awesome before that. Got a few. Danny Masterson because of the RP allegations. Kevin Spacey also the same reason. Also, Roman Polanski. Gene Simmons. Just the biggest ouch about claiming he invented everything. A little bit exaggerated, but I bet he has. Even tried to claim copyright on the horns. Yeah, no. The signature move Dio brought upon the world of heavy metal for the world to share. Most recent one is Evangeline Lilly. After her idiotic IG post about Corona being a hoax. I know she apologized, but she was definitely being pressured to do that. Maybe I'm getting older, but stupidity is such a huge turn off. Not really an answer to the question, but boy oh boy was this an enjoyable read. Spent almost an hour reading through all these, and I can say it was a well spent hour. Martha Stewart. Never respected her, but she was a CNT when I met her 1996. I honestly respect Martha. She did her bid for the same kinds of crimes that members of the US Congress have committed in the past 2 years. Nicki Minaj. The way she made rap fun and goofy for me as a teen girl gave me life, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching her become one of the biggest names in the game. Then Cardi came along and all of this nasty bitter bully mess came out. Really turned me off. I had to stop listening to her for good when she defended her pedophile brother, trashed his victim, and married a rapist and had her goons harassing his victim as well. Nicki surrounds herself with S-Zord predators and it's disgusting. Zendaya. I actually met her to do a photoshoot for a big magazine. 6 hours after arriving. She didn't even lift her head when I was introduced to her. Yet alone a hi. I then took a one photo and then she left. I truly wish I had said something or left. Every time I see a photo of her now, I shudder. Probably just a bad day for her, but years later I still don't like her. Edit. Very strange that my post is getting downvoted. I wish you had waited 6 hours for someone to be so rude and then walk out of your photoshoot after one photo.